warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me begin by thanking the organizers for inviting me to moderate this session. I always look forward to coming to Kuching. This is my fourth trip this year, and I look forward to many more trips to engage more with the people of Sarawak and to see the beautiful city and state that you have here. Now, I must say that this is one of the most challenging tasks I've ever had to undertake. To moderate a panel of 9 speakers in one go. I was telling the speakers, challenging not just from the way to manage time, making sure that we remain focused on the topics at hand, but some of us elder males, it's also a challenge from a biological perspective, being on stage for more than 2 hours, I would say. And but be that as it may, we will do what we can in terms of to cover the topics, if I may. Now, as mentioned by Saleh and Sharifah, the session is on challenges and opportunities in the new economy, digital technology, and green energy driving future growth. So we will be addressing those challenges and opportunities, and we will also explore how the Muslim business community can collaborate to leverage digital technology and green energy to create a more sustainable and prosperous future. Now, allow me perhaps to provide some broader context. I believe that all countries would always aspire to be a prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable nation. Prosperous is often measured in GDP terms to provide business and employment opportunities to the people. Inclusive means making sure that no one is left behind. And sustainable means that we're able to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, the world today, based on IMF most recent data in October, we are an economy of $104.5 trillion at current prices, having grown by 3.5% in 2022 as the global economies emerge out of the global COVID pandemic. Now, such growth is expected to moderate to 3% in 2023 and moderating further to 2.9% in 2024. So indeed, it is going to be a bit more challenging growth-wise as we move forward. In the past, we've seen the global economy being driven by the services and the manufacturing sector. Now, as we move forward towards 2030 and beyond, many countries have started to strategize their economic growth trajectory, and many of them are looking at digital technology and the green economy or energy transition to catalyze the global economic growth, and this would include among the 57 OIC member countries. Now, indeed, this morning we are privileged to have prominent Muslim and non-Muslim business leaders to identify the challenges and opportunities in the new economy with particular emphasis on digital technology and green energy to shape the future of the global Islamic economy. Now, we have diversity in terms of the countries that they represent. We have diversity in terms of the backgrounds, people from various backgrounds in terms of digital, energy, education, investments, and the capital markets. Perhaps the only thing that we lack is in terms of gender diversity. We have only one lady among the 10 of us here on stage. So hopefully we'll do better in the future sessions. But as we always say in Malaysia, please don't worry, because typically one lady can tackle 10 men. So that's the weighting of ladies here. So thank you, Dr. Ruth, for being on our panel. So we have Tan Sri Dato' Amma, Abdul Aziz, who's the chairman of Sarawak Economic Development Corporation, Mr. Ashraf Tanbuli, who's the CEO of Islamic Chamber Halal Services from Egypt. We have technologist Osman Abdullah, CEO of Islamic Finance Silver Lake Axis, which provides technology and software system for Islamic banks and the ecosystem. We have Tuan Haji Yusri bin Safri, who's the Senior Vice President for Contract and Procurement of Sarawak Energy. I heard the huge fan base that he's got earlier from Sarawak Energy. Dr. Ruth Bernes, who's the Chairman and CEO of Green Energy Solutions Incorporated Philippines. Dr. Ruth had in the past worked with the government of Philippines and also with UN development program. We have a fund manager, financier, in Mr. Monim Salam, who's the EVP of Saturna Capital, based in Seattle, Washington, and also has got an office here in Malaysia. And we have Mr. Asif Ibrahim, who is my counterpart at the Chittagong Stock Exchange as the chair, and formerly chair of the Dhaka Chamber of Commerce. And last but not least, we have our heavyweight, the former Minister of Education, Professor Dr. Mazli Malik. So again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the plan is for me to invite each speaker to present for 8 minutes each, after which we'll get into discussion before opening to the floor for questions. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to invite Tan Sri Dato' Amar Haji Aziz Hussein, the chairman of Sarawak SADC, to share his thoughts on the subject matter. Tan Sri.
Thank you. Thank you, Tan Sri Wahid, for your introduction and Your Excellencies, ladies, delegates, fellow speakers, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, I feel very honored here today for being chosen as the first speaker into this forum. And I would like to thank the organizers for being here. First, let me say Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh to all of you, and a very good morning to everyone. And of course, being a Sarawakian myself from Kuching, I would like to welcome all the delegates and speakers to Kuching, Sarawak, and enjoy whatever we have in Kuching. Thank you. Now, on the topic today, I think these are two important issues in today's economy: the challenges and the opportunities in the new economy in terms of digital technology and the green energy. This actually...
Sorry, Tan Sri, if you could put the mic closer. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, sorry. Both these issues, all right, are actually levers that actually have been used by the state government to achieve economic development and the target of getting Sarawak to become a developed and high-income state by the year 2030. So we have actually developed the digital blueprint 2030 for Sarawak, which will have the vision of having inclusive digital economy. And in order to achieve business prosperity or business growth for the state, social inclusivity, and sustainable environment. Now, and the same thing with the green economy. Sarawak would like to become, for example, a developed state by becoming a hub for the green economy, by becoming the major hub for hydrogen production and exporter of hydrogen by the year 2030. Of course, there are many challenges that we face. And I'm sure this is faced not only by Sarawak, but by all the countries in the Muslim world and actually the world at large. I think the first challenges that I can see here is actually on the public misconception or non-awareness of these two issues. Public are still not aware of the need to have, why we have digital, why you need to digitize everything, from finance to the way we do business, the way we pay the transaction, and things like that. And it's the same thing with the green economy. Many people still think that, why do we need to change? Why do we need to change from, say, the way we drive our car, from diesel or petrol to EVs and to hydrogen? So this misconception, I think, is one of the hindrances, and I think that need to be overcome. And one of the things that the state of Sarawak has done, of course, is to bring in terms of digital or green economy, to bring in hydrogen vehicles. We have hydrogen buses that was imported into Sarawak before even COVID time. And, and of course, this is just to get the public to be aware that there are such vehicles that can run on hydrogen, that can run on just batteries, and which do not run on fuel or fossil fuels. So, and I think this awareness is actually something that we need to inculcate among the public and the people, especially in areas where these are still not known about. So, in terms of the digital economy, Sarawak has actually developed our own system of financial transaction. We have Sarawak Pay, and which now has developed into SPay Global. And of course, this has actually introduced the way we do our transaction in the market. Okay. The next important challenge, I think, is infrastructure, or the lack of infrastructure. To develop digital economy, you need physical infrastructure, for example. We need towers, which need to be developed. And I think this has to be done everywhere. Towers in order to get internet connection to the rural areas in our state. Oh, sorry. I think there are other challenges. There's challenges, for example, in skill gaps. We need manpower, we need people. There are challenges in financing all the big projects that we need to do. I mean, hydrogen, for example, is a very expensive, it's still expensive to produce. It comes to big hydrogen production will cost billions of dollars. And of course, maybe I just speak of that one of the major challenges here is, of course, the accelerated development that we need to actually keep up in these technologies, in both the green technology and the digital technology, which is actually becoming fast and changing very fast. So everybody involved in this business of the green economy and digital technology will have to keep pace with this development in terms of the increasing pace of technology, especially in terms like AI, for example. I think my time is up. 40 seconds. Sure.
Well, thank you, Tan Sri, for that input. If I may, Tan Sri covered quite a wide-ranging subject matter, and in particular, he highlighted some of the challenges in terms of misconception, the lack of physical infrastructure. But indeed, I must commend the Sarawak government's push towards green hydrogen. I think this is something which is groundbreaking, and when it comes to powering public transportation and heavy equipment, I believe hydrogen has got great potential among this. So with that, I would now like to invite Mr. Ashraf Al-Tambuli, the CEO for Islamic Chamber Halal Services Egypt, to deliver his thoughts. Ashraf, thank you.
Dr. Abdul Wahid. Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor, actually. It's my first challenge to beat the clock in front of me to make it in 8 minutes, but I'll try my best. Now, the halal market is a huge market. It's a very lucrative market. It's very big because it covers 25% of the global populations. It covers the whole world. There is no single country in the world that doesn't have Muslims, so every place in the world is a market. And it's actually growing. It's not standing still. So everybody, every country is interested to go into this market. Now, this market is exceeding the $2 trillion a year, and it's projected to grow furthermore, with the majority of it is in the food, that's correct, but the rest is not small. The rest are still in billions of dollars. We are talking about cosmetics, we are talking about media, we are talking about fashion, we are talking about travel. So every aspect of the life of Muslims, we are trying to pursue Sharia and compliance in it. It's not just one sector, it's everything, and it's not only for export, because there is also export of service such as travel. So it is very interesting market for everybody to go into. Yet this is creating a lot of challenges. Countries embarked into this challenge and started imposing and setting standards for halal everywhere. But this created a problem because for producers and service providers to comply, they have multiple standards to comply to. And the question is, which standard should I comply with if I'm exporting to multiple countries? Again, with this growing market, a lot of auditors, consultants starting going into this market, certifying companies to be halal and providing them with a certificate and a halal logo. Now the consumer got confused. There's hundreds of logos and there are so many certificates. Unfortunately, not all of them are true. To verify and authenticate them, it's a challenge for consumer. Traders of Muslim origins are also trying to pursue halal and selling halal products all over the world to Muslim clients of theirs. And they're trying to solicit halal certificate from their producer. Again, they have no way of verifying the authenticity of this certificate. Now, these challenges is actually an opportunity for digital transformation. We are the Islamic Chamber Halal Services are tasked by developing the global halal market qualitatively and quantitatively. And to do that, we are trying to change the way certification is done. So we're using a platform where we are changing the typical paper checklist with a tablet-based checklist. Now, this sounds okay, but that's not the essence of it. The essence of it is that we can check that the auditor is actually in the factory. We can check every question that he has. And in this system, there is an artificial intelligence algorithm that can mix standards, so a single audit can comply with multiple standards. So we are solving the confusion of the producer. At the same time, we are having authenticity of the audit that's being done, that we are sure that is being done correctly each time, every time. Now, for the consumer, we need to increase his trust in this product, the halal logo. So whenever there is a certificate or there is a logo, it's accompanied with a QR code. Now, any consumer in any supermarket can scan it very easily with his mobile phone. And immediately, he has some information telling him what is the origin of this certificate, for what scope, for what factory. Because simply a company might have multiple products, but they are not all halal. So if the company is taken for granted, then all products are halal, but that's not the case. Sometimes it's one factory that is certified and it's halal, the other factory is producing ham meat. So only one factory is correct, the other is not. Now, the QR code can tell this to the normal consumer at any place in the world. This doesn't stop at consumer, but also goes into country control authorities. So if there is a shipment going into a port and the authority needs to check the certificate, they can very simply scan the QR code, and suddenly they get lots of information about the shipment, when it was audited, what's the scope of it, who's the auditor, according to which standard, because again, every country has different standards. All this, thanks to technology, can be achieved currently and now is being done. We are also trying to support the awareness. As Professor Abdulaziz mentioned, awareness is very important. We need to make people aware of many items that are sometimes halal and sometimes not halal. And let me give you a very simple example. The candies for our children, M&Ms, for example. M&Ms in our Muslim countries are produced in halal ingredients, are halal. But when you go to a non-Muslim countries, and I'm quoting the website of M&M in the UK, that our products are not suitable for halal diet. So although we are coming from Muslim countries used to consuming M&Ms for our kids, when we travel, we bring it together and we are very happy about it, but it's not very correct. So what we are trying to do is increase awareness through events, through websites, through applications, through mobile apps. And this, again, is a very big opportunity for growing the digital economy for entrepreneurs, young people, SMEs, to develop products, websites, to introduce the general consumers to whatever is halal, whatever is not. Especially that even reading, or people aware, reading the ingredients of any product, it's not always as simple and as plain. Sometimes it's simply an artificial coloring, artificial artificial items in it, and it's typically referred by a chemical reference, E51. What's this? Not everybody knows. But some of these chemicals are coming from non-halal sources, such as insects, for example, especially the purple color. So really, awareness is very important. This is an opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs, AI engineers to develop their application websites and stuff like that. So I tried to be very quick. I hope I didn't skip things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashraf, for that insightful, I suppose, take on the halal industry. So among this, looking at the standardization of halal certification, I guess this is actually one area which is not easy to discuss, but I'm happy that between Malaysia and Indonesia that's been sorted out. One typical approach that we have taken in the past has been, instead of trying to standardize so many countries, different perspectives, different views, would be to come up with the concept of mutual recognition. And that's something which I think can be accelerated, if I may. So let me now move on to the third speaker from the technology industry. So we have technologies, Osman Abdullah, who's the CEO of Indian Islamic Finance from Silver Lake. Osman.
Thank you, Tan Sri Moderator. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning. First of all, thank you very much to the organizer for inviting me to be part of this esteemed panel. Like Tan Sri Moderator mentioned, we have a huge panel members and we are really pressed by the time. So let me refer to my notes so that I can keep up to my time. Just briefly about my organization, I believe probably most of you would have not heard unless you are in the banking industry. I represent Silver Lake Access. We are a Malaysian company, but we are listed in Singapore Stock Exchange. We provide solution. We identify ourselves as digital economy and financial technology service provider. Our customers include major banks in Malaysia as well as abroad. If you are a Malaysian, if you are banking with big names, bank in Malaysia like in Islamic banking, Bank Islam, Bank Muamalat, Bank Rakyat, MBSB, for example, they are all empowered by our system. And if you are Indonesia, bank like Mandiri, BRI, BTN, yeah. So that is briefly about civil access. And I have been with the company for 26 years now. My background is half IT and half Islamic finance. So with that combination of background, I would like to talk about Islamic digital economy. So relating to the this panel session, the objective, I would like to touch on how the Muslim business community can benefit from this Islamic digital economy. But before we go into that specific points, just for the benefit of those who are probably not familiar with the concept of digital economy, let me just briefly highlight what is digital economy. We heard about this digital economy during the opening address during the dinner last night. Our Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim, talked about it. The Wakil President from Indonesia talked about it. But what is digital economy? So if we talk about digital economy, we talk about economy, we always talk about supply and demand, right? So when it comes to digital economy, it's about supply and demand, which is fulfilled online. So Islamic digital economy then are the digital economic activities that is in compliance to Sharia. So in Malaysia, we have dedicated initiative on this Islamic digital economy. This is under our Malaysian Digital Economy Corporation, or MDEC, which focuses on 3 pillars. First pillar of is Islamic finance. Yeah, you're familiar with the concept of Islamic finance, the commercial finance, but also include the social finance aspect, which is the wakaf, the zakat, and sadaqah. The second pillar is on the halal industry. I think you heard about it from the second speaker just now. Halal industry is really in need of digitalization that covers food, healthcare, and cosmetics. And the third and the last pillar, which is lifestyle. We are increasingly have our Islamic lifestyle, travel lifestyle. We have this travel package which focus for halal, where you can find hotel that serve halal foods, easily to find prayers, things like that, right? So there's a modest fashion. This modest fashion is really a booming industry, digital content media, for example. And in Malaysia, we recognize this as a potential and it's actually a source of revenue. And we're talking about $1 trillion business. I think we heard from the video address from His Excellency Syed Raza from Pakistan that the value of Islamic economy is projected to be 2.8 trillion by 2025. So now that we have understand what is the digital economy and what is digital economy, so how can the Muslim business community benefit from this Islamic digital economy? So knowing that this is actually a $1 trillion business, we know that the demand is huge, right? So the opportunities then lies in the supply. Yeah. So, but it is not complete. You also need to look into the opportunity from the enabler perspective. So that's what I would like to talk about from opportunity perspective. This opportunity, we can also look at it from challenges, which I also highlight a little bit. So from the supplier side, okay, I'll start off something very simple to more advanced one. The first simple, as a Muslim business community, you need to have an online presence. Nowadays, digitalization is no longer an option, it's a must. You need to understand why. It is because of consumer behavior. Our consumers today are highly digital. Most of us are very comfortable shopping online. This has been further accelerated by COVID-19, for example. When we were locked down, I think the only thing in the economy that was really happening was online business, right? So for Muslim business community, if you want to actually tap on this opportunity, first of all, you can always promote your product from as simple as social media. You can have just live streaming, you can promote your product. So a lot of business people have made a lot of money by going live on social media and start selling their product. The second one is by participating in a marketplace. Yeah, like for example, in Malaysia, we have a Shopee, Lazada, or Amazon in the more international. So you can create this online store by participating in this marketplace, and you need to have your own website. even though you are in a physical store business, you need to have a digital presence, because consumer today, before they want to buy stuff, they would like to look for the information online, they will look for the customer review, yeah? So you need to have this digital presence. This digital presence will represent you so that your potential customers will be able to then identify you. At the more advanced level, you can participate in ecosystem. So probably some of you have heard of this concept of embedded finance. So what is embedded finance? Embedded finance is the concept where financial industry, financial institution can collaborate with, for example, retailers. Yeah? So the retailers will be able to offer financial services product to their customer by customer not having to leave this retailer, either app or website or even physical store. Like for example, let's say this retailer sells something and the customer chooses not to pay by cash. This customer would like to use buy now, pay later services. This buy now, pay later doesn't have to be provided by the retailer itself. It can be in collaboration with financial institution, but the customer will just fulfill this transaction at the retailer itself. Another example would be, for example, if you are in a travel package business and travelers would require takaful protection. Yeah? So for example, if you are in the app business of selling travel packages or website selling travel packages, you can partner with a takaful operator where when people buy these travel packages, they can then just subscribe to these takaful services right from the app of the travel package itself. So huge opportunity from the supplier side. That's not complete if you are not talking about the enabler side. So all this opportunity that I talk about from the business suppliers, they need a tech partner to enable this Islamic digital economy. So this is where the opportunity is for the tech players, people who are providing IT services, people providing software business, people who are providing hardware devices, for example. So all of this is real an opportunity because the industry is really in need of innovation. Yeah? So we have this emerging technology like blockchain, we have technology like artificial intelligence. So blockchain is good for traceability. So in the halal industry, you can trace the halal supply chain ecosystem. So artificial intelligence is my favorite topic. Currently, I'm working on a PhD on artificial intelligence application in a Sharia decisioning process. So there's a huge opportunity in this. I'm not talking about getting AI to replace human scholars to decide on Sharia matters. I'm talking about the Sharia scholars are in need of help from this digital AI to help them make their work more efficient. They need AI services to be able to identify the relevant sources, Quranic or Hadith sources, for example, the data for them, so that these Sharia people will be able to make the decision faster. So in short, my time is running. To sum up, huge opportunity in Islamic digital economy. Yeah, the demand is huge. From the supplier side, you can participate, and then you need to have an digital enabler to help that. With that, I thank you so much.
Thank you, Technologies Osman, for that wide coverage of digital technology. So if I may now move over to the energy sector, and within that also usage of some digital technology in how you address the consumer space. May I now invite Tuan Haji Yusri Safri from Sarawak Energy to provide his perspective. Over to you. Thank you.
That is the advantage of being a local. Or it can also be a disadvantage because it can be distracting. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Excellencies, Tan Sri Moderator, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to participate in this 2023 Global Muslim Business Forum. Yep. I have some slides to show so that it's easier for me for you to all make reference to what I'm about to say. Yeah? Next, please. Is anyone controlling? Yep. So today, Sarawak Energy's investments in green energy are primarily focused on renewable hydropower, as you can see on the slides. We have harnessed about a lot of abundant hydropower potential since the 1980s, and currently we have 3,452 megawatt installed generation capacity of hydroelectric plants through our Batangai, Murum, and Bakun hydroelectric plants, or HEPs as we call it in short. A fourth 1,285 megawatt plant in Baleh is due to be commissioned towards the end of this decade, and that will bring the total hydropower capacity to close to 5,000 megawatt. Now, importantly, 70% of our generation mix is renewable hydropower, supported by a bit of gas and indigenous coal, and some off-grid diesel for security of supply. And we have committed to no longer build new coal-fired power plants. We are gradually phasing out our older coal plants and also transitioning our off-grid diesel with solar and solar hybrid systems. Next. So the strategic shift to hydropower has laid the foundation for sustainable socio-economic growth in Sarawak, helping to fully electrify Sarawak and bridging the urban and rural gaps and boosting the rural infrastructure. And hydropower has also enabled us to offer amongst the most competitive, unsubsidized power tariffs in the region. And this will attract investments into the state, thereby creating jobs and business opportunities. Next. And hydropower development has provided a platform for us to pursue regional interconnections in Southeast Asia. And in many recent regional energy-centered forums, the talk has always been about the ASEAN power grid. And I'm proud to say that Sarawak Energy has already started our journey within Borneo, and through a power exchange agreement with Perusahaan Listrik Negara, or PLN. We have commissioned our first bilateral interconnection with Indonesia in 2016, signifying the beginning of the Borneo power grid. And outside of Borneo, we are currently progressing the Sarawak-Singapore interconnection, which we target to be completed in the early 2030s. And other ASEAN countries also are expected to further expand cross-border electricity grids, facilitating clean energy resource sharing, including hydropower, and increasing grid reliability, which will power sustainable growth across Southeast Asia. Next. Now, our investments in green energy are supplemented by a strategic focus on becoming a sustainable digital utility by 2025, where we capture opportunities presented by new technologies, new innovations to enhance efficiency and improve performance across our operations. This is reflected in our efforts to cultivate a smart power grid that is safe, that is secure and reliable, in recognition of the fact that increased peak demand has raised the complexity of grid operations. It is no longer cost-effective today to efficiently operate, monitor, and secure our network and assets in a manual manner. Digitalization is the only way forward. Right? So we are leveraging and integrating key smart grid technologies to ensure a safe, secure, and reliable grid supply system, enhance operational safety and efficiency, and also empower our customers. Next. So reflecting on this is just one example of the innovations that we have done. We implemented a dynamic water dispatch management, or DWDM system, in 2021, where we leverage on AI-based analytics and machine learning. It forecasts and dispatch. It modernizes the forecasting and dispatch of our 3 active hydroelectric dams in Batangai, Murum, and Bakun. Now, previously, our HEPs very much relied on historical rainfall to predict river inflow and reservoir water levels. But today, with the increasingly unpredictable weather conditions and patterns, this is no longer tenable, especially as it relates to decision-making for the dispatch and scheduling of our HEPs. So this system will be able to resolve this through its reliable, high accuracy, and real-time hydrological forecasting, and therefore facilitating a better dispatch optimization, as well as anticipation of inflow and reservoir water level. Next. Moving on to our retail business, Sarawak Energy has proudly developed our own modernized mobile on-site billing solution, or MOBIS as we call it, to streamline meter reading, billing, and invoicing operations for us and our customers. So MOBIS enhances efficiency by providing real-time data processing and improving customer satisfaction. And some of the key benefits you can see here: it can reduce development and running costs, minimizes end-to-end process time, transitioning away from outdated tools to new modern devices, and higher actual reading for customers' monthly bills. Now, these enhancements are a key element of our efforts to future-proof Sarawak Energy's operations and reward the trust that our customers have placed in us. Next. So we have a lot of other initiatives, as you can see on screen. We have taken other steps to provide customers with the best experience possible, deploying various technological innovations to enhance our retail services. Some of them include the self-service mobile application, SEB Cares, online applications for electricity supply, self-service payment kiosks, as well as e-billing. We've also upgraded our integrated customer care center by introducing more omni-channels, such as Karina, our virtual customer agent, to resolve customer questions and concerns. And coupled with agent live chat features, customer waiting time can be significantly reduced by providing call routing and workflow escalation through our integrated customer care center. And we are also transitioning from conventional meters to smart meters, which are equipped with advanced metering features that will enhance customer experience and provide automatic meter reading and prompt billing services. As of today, 63,000 smart meters have been installed, and we target to install 500,000 in the years to come. So these are some of the green energy and digital technology initiatives that we have in Sarawak Energy. I look forward to hearing from the others as well. Thank you, Tan Sri. On time.
Well, thank you, Jerisi. Very much on time. Perhaps one follow-up question immediately. In terms of the challenge, what would be the biggest challenge for you in exploiting or developing further the green energy? So when we talk about the hydropower, so we spoke about Batang Ai at the speaker's room, where you generate about 100 megawatts
100 megawatts,
of hydropower, but yet the surface or the lake is able to produce 50 megawatts of solar panel. And you can imagine the potential for Bakun and so on. So what are the challenges in terms of exploiting the full potential, if I may? I believe yesterday, Premier also spoke about 20,000 megawatts for hydro potential.
Yeah, in reality, there is about 8 to 10,000 megawatts of hydro potential in the state. We have only harnessed about, including the one that will be about 5,000 megawatt, including Bale, right? So we still have a lot of hydro potential coming in the future. But and also maybe a bit of correction there. The reservoir at Batang Ai can actually produce more than 50 megawatt solar, but we are just piloting a 50 megawatt solar at the moment. I think the biggest challenges for green energy is the investment costs itself. You know, it is not cheap, and also for solar as well. Solar is an intermittent power supply, right? You can only generate during the daytime, unless you have batteries, which are costly. Then you can make useful use of the solar. But these are some of the issues, I would say, and there are many, many other issues that we can talk about. But probably one issue is that solars are intermittent, right, and costly at this moment in time. Hopefully, with the amendment to the recent electricity ordinance amendment, we will get more manufacturers to come in to produce solar and therefore bring the cost down. But at the moment, solar is still rather expensive, and with the relatively cheap tariffs that we have in Sarawak, it probably makes the ROI become a bit longer for solar players to come in. But yes, solar is intermittent, and it should only be supplementing the other renewable energies that we have today. Yep.
Well, thank you. So indeed, the storage technology is one area that needs a lot more investment and acceleration, because once you have that at a more affordable cost, you can actually have the ability to store all the power produced by solar, wind, and others to provide that base load for electricity supply. So with that, I think this is just a nice transition towards Dr. Ruth, the Chairman and CEO of Green Energy Solutions Philippines. Dr. Ruth.
Good morning, everyone, distinguished guests. I would really appreciate for this opportunity to be invited by the host, and I'm really excited to be the only Ruth among the thorns. Yeah, but I hope they are not thorns. I am a sustainability expert, yes, and an engineer and a lawyer at the same time. Allow me to read some of my presentation. My friends, we are experiencing exceptional times and a new economic order. The shocks and surprises arising from pandemics and wars we're able to witness economic revolution that is shaping the world order, the pathway to green economy and digital economy. Allow me now to concentrate on the green economy, the road to energy transition, or leading to the net zero, we say net zero emission. This comes after difficult years in the aftermath of the coronavirus, with supply chains delays, rising inflation, high interest rate. Then countries, developing and developed countries, have looked into their inward policies, energy supply chain, security and supply situation. Now government must efficiently implement prospects for more on clean energy and digital transition. By mid-century, renewables will be account to 86% in the global capacity. So solar power will have about twofold capacity globally. There will be 69% also, and sixfold offshore wind, 40-fold onshore wind, offshore wind. This is an optimistic scenario. However, with that increased capacity, still climate is not making good. By 2050, we still see 2.2 Celsius. So we are, the world, the earth is still experiencing so much heat. We now move forward faster and realize climate change commitments. We need to consider challenges in the renewable energy sector. One is policy formulation in all countries in the world. Developing countries have their own commitments. Developed countries are moving forward towards green energy transition. China is leading the pathway with 60% of its capacity. But however, another challenge on renewable energy is on sustainability and environmental issues. Environmental, what I mean is that biomass project, waste to energy, this has been a question about politics and the sufficiency of feedstock. And also communities refuse to do biomass, and also they cannot understand what's all about circular economy. Politics also play a role in implementing the circular economy or waste to energy projects. Also in waste to energy projects, the challenge is on the right technology. Solar is about intermittency in the same way with wind projects. However, with the lower LCOE on solar and wind, I think that would come, solar power capacity will move forward faster globally. As of today, 86% of the 40% capacity increase and generation in the world is on solar. Next is wind project. Number one issue is permitting process. It's a challenge because permitting has been an issue since then. So in most countries, especially in developing countries, like the Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, the permitting has been so complicated, and also local governments cannot just understand the requirement and need for the renewable energy in their communities. There's also the issue on accessible financing. According to an arena, there's a requirement of $3 trillion annually for developing countries to move on generation, and also to reach out their capacity, their NDCs or national commitment under the Paris Climate Agreement. There are so many opportunities and challenges for each technology. For solar, intermittency has been a challenge, but however, with the recent technology on storage, that issue has been long solved with the participation of the private sector. However, the government or the public sector must also coordinate or cooperate with the private sector in order to move forward to this kind of transition especially using solar energy technology. In the Philippines, we have devised a plan or scheme in order that the private sector should participate in power generation. However, during the first green energy auction, only 2,000 megawatt has been subscribed. In the second green energy auction, only 30% has been subscribed. No players. Why? Because of so much bottlenecks, so much challenges, especially on the insufficiency and availability of infrastructure. One required infrastructure is the transmission line. So there's so much, it's the same way in other countries. Transmission line is an issue. Also the land use plan, because of so much requirement in using public lands, renewable energy is not moving faster in some developing countries. Another, going back to more challenges, is on the how could we attract so much or available financing for renewable energy when coal power plant or fossil fuel is more attractive and governments in the developing countries give so much subsidy. So the issue is, why not governments or say developing countries shift the subsidies to renewable energy? So I know it's my time to stop, and I think we could be continuing this issue during the open forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth. Actually, you had another minute. So whenever the bell rings, you're supposed to have 1 minute actually to wrap up. But I think it's okay. So we actually get it into further discussion. So indeed, you highlighted some of the challenges, among others, including financing and transmission line. So one of the things which we discuss in the energy fora, the various fora that we have, is about how you can make energy more distributed without having to invest in huge transmission. So I think this is where, when we spoke about the storage technology, that's one. But there's also some conversations about small modular reactors. So with the advancement of technology, nuclear reactors need not be huge. It can be much smaller. It can be distributed to power some industrial parks and so on. So with that, you lower your cost of infrastructure and less damage to the environment as well. As you know, as you build massive transmission lines, it may cut across forests and so on, so that it will have adverse impact on the economy, on the forests and so on. So, well, with that, we'll come to that a bit later. Let me now move over to the gentleman on my left, who's Professor Major Datuk Dr. Engineer Chin Yusin, who's the advisor for Asia Pacific region, the Global One Belt, One Road Association of Thailand. Now, early on, somehow I was leaning to my right, the women power, and I forgot to introduce Professor Chin. So I apologize, Professor. So indeed, he's a Malaysian, but wearing many hats. So this morning he's wearing the Thailand hat. So over to you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Tan Sri, my old friend. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. When you go to Rome, you must be a Roman. When you come to this global Muslim business forum, must be try to be like a Muslim. I'm not a non-Muslim. Okay, but I study Islamic law at University Malaysia before, so little bit about Arabic words. Okay, today we are going to talk about this digital economic and the next economic. Before we come to the next economic system, we are going to have, we must look at the history first. That's why, like Chinese saying, you look at the mirror, you know how to dress up yourself. You take people as your mirror, you know what is right or what is wrong. Yes? And then you look at the history, you know the rise and fall of an empire. So before we come to this new economic system, we must look at the history. First thing, you know that the first industrial revolution started with this mechanization, because the time you use water and steam to generate this the machine to replace the what I call the labor works. That is called the first what I call economic system, or so-called production economic. That's why they was started in the first industrial revolution, started in UK and these French, all these European countries. Then secondly, you come to this what I call the next industrial revolution. Then the time electricity come into play. That's why the time we call the electrification. Everything we try to electrify all the things. Then because of electricity, then we can have a division of labor and the process. That means the work process at the factory there. Then you can go for this mass production, all these things. Then this is called what I call the process economy. I will term it as a process economy because they want more to do with the division of labors and the work process. Then come to third, what I call industrial revolution. You have this sort of what I call electronification. At the time electronic come into play, you use the ICT to sort of improve your production process. That's why at the time I will call this, and then you use a lot of this information. That's why I call this time is knowledge economy. That's why you try to make some knowledge to make so many what I call these gauges in the market. So all these things, that's why this is the third industrial revolution. So right now it's called the fourth industrial revolution, or what we call digitization. Everything you try to digitize. So what is the difference between the first three industrial revolution and the present industrial revolution? The first three industrial revolution, you're talking about the what I call the process at the factory floor. You're only talking about the production side only. When you come to digitization, or what you call digital economy, so the whole thing is linked together. The only extra word is called a network. Because last time you only linked together at the what I call the production floor. You try to improve from the mechanical system to this electrical system, then you come to the electronic system. But you come to this digitization, there's a network. You can link together with your production process, your administration, and your customers also can be linked together. See? This is why people need to digitize, because it can really improve your productivity and your competitiveness. Anyone who don't really want to digitize, you cannot survive in this market. That's why people last time say, change or die. Then later on come to innovate or die. Now it's digitize or die. You don't digital or you will die. So because of the what I call the economic, what I call the competition, so you need to digitize everything so that you can really improve your productivity. This is very important. That's how China developed itself within less than about 45 years. Mainly because, first thing because they built a lot of this infrastructure. That's why they built prosperity through infrastructure. Second thing, they make use of a lot of these digital technologies. That's very important because China is a very vast country. There are so many rural areas. How they can eradicate this poverty, 800 million people out of absolute poverty in less than 40 years because of the use of infrastructure, because they build a lot of this access road to the rural areas. And another thing also, they make use of these digital technologies, e-commerce, how to sell their products from the rural areas to the city. So this is very important. That's why ASEAN countries should be connected in 2025. But I look at the rate, it can't be connected in 2025. There's a progress there. So how ASEAN can be connected together? Because ASEAN is a big market now. ASEAN population about 666 million population. Even larger than the EU. The whole EU market is only about 500 million. But this ASEAN is about 600. They talk about the global Muslim, there's a 1.8 billion population. How to connect the whole world, this Muslim connected together is a single largest, what I call market. Because in the world now, the largest population, most populated country is India, 1.4 billion. China also about 1.4 billion. But this global Muslim, there's a population of 1.8 billion. So it's considered the largest market in the world. So how to connect all these, what I call Islamic countries together, you need the digital technology. Because only the digital technology can sort of connect with all the countries together. So this what I call this the use of digital technologies. So from these digital technologies, what is the next economic system to come? Because first thing you look at there's a mechanization, then there's electrification, third one is electronification, fourth one is digitization. The next one will be what? Like a new term called the greenification. How to clean your whole building, how to clean your whole city, how to have a clean living. And my good friend Albert had a clean clothes also, see. So this is what I call the green economy. Green economic system is the next economic system to come. I would say the fifth industrial relations will be based on, driven by this what I call green economy. Because you look at the four previous industrialization, they only talk about economic growth. They don't care so much about the sustainability of the environment. That's why with this green economy coming into play, so we try to use what? The solar panels, you use wind power, we use the sea wave power or thermal energy from the sea, or use what I call the nuclear power. All these are considered, can be considered as a clean form of energy. So that's why in order for this economic system to be sustainable, you need to have this new economic system called the green economic system, so that there was a balance between the economic growth and this sustainability of our environment. Because the ocean layer is the hole is getting bigger and bigger. If we don't care about the environment, you keep on give out so much carbon emission to environment, one day the whole world cannot sustain and it will die off. So there's no point of talking about economic growth when the world is no more there. True or not? When there is the world is no more there, there's no point you keep on talking about economic growth. Well, the time is passing very fast. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chin, for that very extensive elaboration on the various industrial revolutions that we have gone through. Among those, you cited the opportunities in terms of the ASEAN market and the Muslim countries for sure. And of course, the fifth industrial revolution in terms of green economy. Now, in case you're wondering why we keep leaning forward, we're actually looking at the clock on the screen there. It's actually blocked by the table. So in case you're wondering what we figured out. So anyway, so let's go to our seventh speaker from the investment side. So we have Mr. Munim Salam, who's the EVP of Satana Capital USA. Munim, over to you.
Thank you, Maboid, and also thank you for for inviting us to speak here today. I know we're only a couple more left, so hopefully people can pay attention and stay awake, inshallah, in the audience. See, I can see everybody else, and you guys can't see the people that are sleeping. So, so I wanted to talk a little bit from a fund manager perspective on this idea of digitization and digitalization, because a lot of times what happens, like for example, I'll give you one example of this is that when you go online and there are U.S. books, for example, online banks. A lot of times these online banks, when you look at the back-end systems, they're actually contracting that out to conventional banks. So the only part of the digitalization that's happening is only on the consumer-facing front end. The same thing with robo-advisory. You as a user might think that robo-advisory is all electronic and stuff, but again, on the back end, maybe the calculations that are being made and giving you the advice based on an algorithm, so that's maybe digitized. But then when you come to the account opening and those things, you might be filling out those accounts, but the actual KYC and those things that are happening much more on a rudimentary, old technology basis. So there's actually two sides to the digitization. And so what I wanted to talk about was more on the back end of it, which is where I think a real opportunity lies, because on the front end, we're getting better and better at being able to do that. So the first one is going to be on the financial institutions and their legacy systems, right? On the legacy systems, going back to this idea of how do you electronically, for example, do KYC, know your customer protection, all of these different things. How do we KYC as well? How do we do that automatically rather than doing it on a physical level with employees? The second one that we can talk about is data mining. And so on the data mining side, we have these legacy systems and a lot of data on the customers that we have. But how do we efficiently and effectively use that data to be able to maybe create client personas? And then as soon as, for example, let's say AI picks up on a certain persona, how do we begin to market to these individuals based on the questions they fill out or based on the type of customer that they really are? Once we're able to do that, it becomes much more efficient for us to be able to target market to these to our customers, but also market to potential customers as well. The next one that we can touch upon is artificial intelligence. And this has a lot been talked about, and really it's very, very, very new. How do we effectively utilize AI in this area? So the couple of things, right? Here, and the AI can actually go and actually generate those personas for you based on customer interaction. So that's one. The second one is that at call centers and those type of things, AI could actually be able to help you or help the sales support be able to answer questions in a much more efficient way and much more accurately, maybe than might be prone to human error or those type of things. From a fund management perspective, AI could also not take over the role of the analyst, but also basically supplement the research that's happening on identifying good companies to be able to invest in whenever we're doing that. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention here, I mean, I think we have from the Islamic economy perspective, being that majority of the Islamic economies are in the developing world, right? Very similar to what happened in telecommunications, where you had the developed world establish, for example, the telecommunication infrastructure for landlines and all of those huge costs that were there. We have an opportunity as developing world did to skip over the quote-unquote landline part of technology and really get into the digitization of it. And the costs will get reduced for us to be able to go out there and effectively do it because we don't have those costs that the legacy systems or the legacy banks are being able to do. Without those costs, your profit margins will actually be able to go up, and it's much more attractive of an investment opportunity. The one thing to keep in mind as you're talking about digitization, and I'll probably end with this area, right? And it's a costly endeavor to be able to do it, to be able to make those investments into not only the front-end digitization, but also the back end of it. But it's something that if you don't do it, you are going to get left behind. Now, the challenge becomes, right, the cost of money is no longer free like it used to be for the past 15 years. So how do you begin to justify or become with a cost analysis of what needs to happen and when how you're going to be able to make up those costs when you actually inputting them? And that cost is basically, you look at it from an efficiency perspective, right? How efficient can you make or how productive can you make your employees when they're answering the phone, when they're doing the analysis, what kind of personas you can draw from the marketing side, all of these things, these efficiencies that can be built in, there is a cost savings for, and that's how you begin to justify all of the investments into the actual digitization. So I'll stop here. I know it's a little bit early. That's perfectly fine, and we can move on from there.
Well, thank you, Madam. So, if I may just perhaps ask you, in terms of your own operations, your funds under management, how much is allocated to the green digital technology and green economy?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So just to kind of give you a background, for Saturna Capital, we run the oldest and one of the largest Sharia funds in the world. We're about 7 billion under management, just purely on Sharia compliant investments. Part of our Sharia compliant mandate also, this is individual, not generally, is that we are also adhering to environmental, social, and governance investment criteria. So within that, we have decided to become a fossil fuel-free investment firm. And so that gives us an opportunity to be able to invest in these greener technologies and the likes, whether it be from wind or solar or those type of things. So we have an allocation towards them, but I will tell you one thing it's becoming more of a challenge now to be able to find the right opportunities when it comes to when it comes to green technology for a few reasons. Number one is a lot of the companies or a lot of the, for example, Sarawak Energy is government owned. We can't invest in Sarawak Energy. If you talk about some other ones that because there's such a huge infrastructure cost to it, they are not publicly traded and we're not able to invest in them. So that's one thing. The second thing is that where these companies were private, they were heavily subsidized by governments itself. And so the business model wasn't there. Maybe it was there when the money was free, but the business model isn't there for them right now to be able to look at it from a profitability perspective. So that's the second challenge that we have to find these. And the last one is that as, for example, offshore wind was something that was very, very talked about quite heavily. But you later find out there's actually more problems than they're not, and now companies are pulling away from the offshore wind side of it as well. So as the technologies begin to get developed, there are going to be issues that come up, and how do businesses actually solve for those are going to be very, very important. So I think probably, about 5-6 years ago, we probably had between about a 5% exposure to alternative energy, and now we're reducing that just basically based on the fact that the cost of these businesses have gone up quite considerably, being able to do that. One last thing that I'll mention also is that as I mentioned these costs, in the conventional space, there's very, very few utilities that an Islamic fund manager can buy because they're heavily indebted because of the costs that are involved. So my encouragement to most people is to be able to offer a sukuk as an alternative to the conventional bonds to be able to raise the capital that you need to be able to make those costs. That's very, very important for the fund managers. It grows not only the pie of what sukuk is available, but also it actually increases not only from the sukuk side, but also from the investment perspective on what Islamic fund managers are allowed to invest in.
Well, thank you, Monem. Well, we have good news for you in the sense that we have lots of investment opportunities. Now, for Malaysia, if I may just provide the example, as we aspire to be a net zero greenhouse gas emissions nation as early as 2050, based on a study undertaken by BCG and WWF, we will require some 500 billion ringgit of investments between now and 2050, so over the next 27 years or so. So on average, we're talking about 1% of GDP. Now, the good news is that 57% of those investments required, or about 300 billion ringgit or so, they are economically viable on its own, without any carbon pricing and without any government subsidy. So it is actually viable, and it will be in the form of a mix of equity and sukuk, debt-based, and returns actually there. The challenge we have had in the past was that when some of these Shara funds look at investing in developing economies, they are expecting much higher hurdle rates than what they are getting from Europe and from the US. So I think this is where they argue on the basis of the cost of capital. I have a different view on that, but I do hope that this is a challenge that the Muslim world can actually address. So when you invest, don't just look at it from a risk-based perspective. Please also look at the purpose-based perspective. And therefore, projects that are green, projects that are beneficial to humankind should certainly command much lower hurdle rate for investment. So there will be a request for Satruna and other funds, if I may. Now, let us move to the far end of the stage, to Chittagong, Bangladesh, and to my counterpart at the Chittagong Stock Exchange, Mr. Asif Ibrahim. Over to you, from a capital market perspective, perhaps.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic is challenges and opportunities in the new economy, digital technology and green energy driving future growth. Let's talk about the new economy. It's a new concept. It can be a broad concept, but it can be interpreted in various ways. I look at it from three perspectives. Number one, it means significant technological advancements. Number two, it means changes in traditional business models. And number three, it also has to have shifts in the traditional societal behaviors that we've been used to in terms of conducting business. What are the challenges? I think some of the key challenges are infrastructure and investment, particularly for LDC Muslim countries. Transition to digital and green economy landscape would require significant investments in infrastructure, in areas of advanced energy grids, in areas of digital connectivity. And the governments and businesses will face challenges mobilizing substantial capital for these projects. Number two is technological integration. Integrating digital technologies with green energy systems could be complex. Compatibility issues, we have the threat of cybersecurity nowadays, and the need for skilled professionals to manage these integrated systems may pose future challenges. Number three is regulatory hurdles. Navigating and aligning with evolving regulations and processes in both the technology and energy sectors can be a major challenge. Ambiguous or restrictive regulations may slow down the innovation that we all want to see, particularly from a forum like this. We have supply chain constraints. Production and distribution of components for both digital technology and green energy systems often rely on global supply chains. Now we see the disruption during, because of the war in Europe and how much it has meant to the global businesses. So this may also impact the going forward. Another challenge is transitioning workforce. I think the shift to a digital and green economy may result in job displacements in the traditional industries, but this can also be an opportunity. Now, when you come to the opportunities, which is the second component, I think there is tremendous scope of innovation and collaboration, particularly between the Muslim Ummah and the Muslim countries. The convergence of digital technology and green energy will open up avenues of innovation. The tech companies and the energy providers can actually collaborate and lead to development of smart grids, energy efficient technologies, and sustainable solutions. Again, this can lead to job creation. Where the traditional jobs may be at risk, this new innovative fields of renewable energy, data analytics, preventing cyber threats through new software development, using artificial intelligence can lead to opportunities for job creation. On the issue of environmental sustainability, the adoption of green energy can bring in the global concern of climate change, which we all see nowadays. It may also lead to data-driven decision-making. Integration of digital technology will allow real-time data collection and analysis of the energy sector. We saw some of the examples as was mentioned by the presentation from the Sarawak example. And it will lead to economic growth, and it will have lead us to have more resilience and energy securities going forward. Now, let me go into the, since I'm from Bangladesh, let me just highlight some of the ambitious plans that we have. In Bangladesh, the government has taken an ambitious plan to have 40% of the total energy production through clean and green energy by the year 2041, which is about 41 gigawatts of energy. But we have our constraints. One of the key constraint is the availability of land. You know, it's a small country, so having elaborate solar power projects can be a challenge. But there is opportunity there also. There is actually capacity of more than 10,000 megawatts in the Nepal hydro basin, which India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Bhutan can collaborate together. But we haven't seen any political consensus in that regard. Regarding the digital inclusion, Bangladesh has done wonderfully well. You know that through the mobile banking system across the country, we have more than 90% of the population who are under the mobile coverage. And through financial inclusion, through the mobile banking, we've been able to get a lot of momentum going there. Finally, I think you can see some of from the energy perspectives, many countries have long-term low-emission development strategies, I think, which is very, very important. That can be done through smart energy management. improved energy efficiency can provide 40% of the reductions needed to keep the 1.5 degree centigrade goal within reach. And I think this is a tangible goal that can be reached. I can give some examples. For example, in Mauritius, smart grid, digitally enabled advanced distribution management system that can automatically address power outages when they happen to optimize the grid performance. Then in Bangladesh, we have one of the highest number of LEED certified green buildings in our textile sector. That is a very good example, and these investments were made more from the entrepreneurial zeal of the local entrepreneurs. So that is an encouraging example that can be perhaps followed in other developing economies as well. You have the decentralized energy systems in Bangladesh, through which we have been able to really penetrate the deepest villages of the country through the solar power projects. And we have also introduced smart metering in Bangladesh. So that is helping us achieve our green energy targets. Climate resilient farming, there are the good examples in Serbia, where solar-powered automated monitoring and irrigation systems have been quite successful. So these are some of the models that can be replicated. Now, financing, since the moderator is also from the stock exchange, and me too, I think green sukuk and Sharia compliant bonds, sustainable bonds, can be good instruments going forward. I was very encouraged to note that the world's first green sukuk was issued in the year 2017 in the month of June in Malaysia by a company called Tadau Energy, who collected 250 million RMB for the solar power plant in Sabah. Indonesia also has good examples. $1.25 billion worth of sovereign green sukuk was raised for investment in green energy. In Dubai, in 2019, Majid Al Futtaim raised $600 million in the GCC through sukuk bonds as well. So we have to explore these kind of new avenues of financing going forward. And perhaps since the moderator is from Bursa, Malaysia, I'm from Chittagong Stock Exchange, we can have some collaboration straightforward. We can discuss it after this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asif. Indeed, we'll embark on that conversation afterwards. Now, you mentioned about investment in infrastructure. When it comes to digital infrastructure, naturally, the mobile coverage is actually important. So it's heartening to note that Axiata has been playing a major role in developing the mobile communications infrastructure in Bangladesh. And this is something where I would like to get into after the next speaker to talk about how do we enhance collaboration, cross investments among the Muslim countries, for example. But before that, we'll move to the last speaker, but not least. I mentioned about him being a heavyweight, our former Minister of Education, and who's also currently the chairman of International Institute of Advanced Islamic Studies in Malaysia, Professor Dr. Mazli Malik. Prof.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everybody. Respected speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about digital economy, green technology, sectors, I'm wondering where in this discussion, where in this territory, Muslims or maybe citizens in Muslim countries are positioned. Are we a mere consumers of the technology, or are we the one that navigating those technologies, or are we the innovators or producers of those technologies? That's number one. And number two, I was also got fascinated by the point that been made by Dr. Khilawi just now, when he quoted the Prime Minister of Malaysia and also the Vice President of Indonesia when they were talking about our route while we're talking about technologies, we're talking about business, we're talking about finance, we're talking about wealth creation. But at the meantime, we must come back to our root. As Muslims, coming back to, the teaching of Islam, but as human being, coming back to our inner human concerns. So this is where I trust education is very pertinent when it comes to these questions. Are we talking about digital technology, green energy, while at the same time we allow injustice to take place? While we're talking about enhancing the technology and wealth creation, while at the same time we allow bad governance to take place, the corruption to take place, and also the disparity between those who have and those who have not. If we would like to push furthermore, are we talking about being the one that navigating the technology, but at the same time, we have no problem with the ethical issues that happening around us. We have no problem with hospitals being bombed, yet we are investing in those companies who are supporting those regimes who are bombing hospitals, killing children, justifying occupation. Or are we happy, leading the technology and also all the changes, while at the same time we keep quiet on child labor issues? We are busy about carbon emission, but at the same time human trafficking taking place all around the places, and we just shut one eye and looking at the carbon emission. So all these issues should be addressed in this forum, I believe. But as a person who was in charge on education, I trust education is the most important thing for us to shape not only the future roadmap of where we are heading to, but also the present one. Just now, before we start our forum, we were talking about the role of education and how education is important in shaping the future. But for me, the future is no longer about the next decade or 10, 20, 30 years ahead. With this, light speed of information that we have nowadays, the future is the next few hours ahead of us. The future is tomorrow. The future is in the next coming weeks. Just because of certain messages spreading around, just because of certain footages of videos spreading around, you could start a revolution. You could bring a government down. You could start a war. You could stop a war. You could start any humanitarian atrocities. So how do we deal with those? That's another issue. So I still remember when I was in Jordan, a long time ago, when I was in charge of education, I was asked by one of the Arabic media, and the question was very simple, but it's very difficult to answer it. I was asked, Ma ma'na tarbiya? I mean, what is the meaning of education? What is education is all about? So it's a simple question, but the answer is not really simple. So I answered them by saying that li'ansanatil insan, and to humanize human being. You can philosophize with that. But again, what is it all about? So I still remember when answering any questions about what is education, where will it lead to, and normally we say that education is a holistic, collective effort to produce global citizens with a heart full of humanity and universal values, where potentials being fully unleashed towards their maximum, guided by IR 4.0, maybe 5.0, and heavily utilizing STREAM. It's no longer STEM. It's no longer science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We should upgrade to a stream, S-T-R-E-A-M, science, technology, reading, arts, engineering, and mathematics. Because I've seen a lot of scientists later became terrorists when their hearts is lacking of culture and appreciation of arts and beauty. I've seen, in our history, how people becoming robots if they don't read and they don't appreciate others and they have no respect towards others' faiths, belief, culture, and differences. Heavily utilizing STREAM as a way of life while upholding the values of love, happiness, and mutual respect. So I believe that education should inculcate all those elements in order to produce a humane human being, those who appreciate diversity, those who navigate the future, not only their nation, but also the world, with certain ethical and moral compass. But again, to talk about all those kind of mumbo-jumbo things, while the infrastructure of schools is lacking, decades back, is rather inappropriate. Because I'm in Sarawak, I still remember those days when I visited Sarawak a lot just to tackle the issue of dilapidated schools. You can talk about, IR 5.0 curriculum, you can talk about digitization of everything, but when you have schools with the quality of the 60s or the 70s in 2023, I don't think that would be an appropriate discussion. So this is where I would be very thankful to the state government of Sarawak. When we work together, I managed to channel 1 billion to tackle the issues of dilapidated schools. I hope this government will continue it, because I trust that the access to quality education is the rights of every citizen, regardless of their age, regardless where they're coming from, regardless of the ethnicity they belong to. And for that, I think we should work together. When we talk about education, it's not only the sole responsibility of the Ministry of Education or Ministry of Higher Education, it's also the responsibility of the state government, local councils, Ministry of Digital Technology, because you're talking about connectivity of internet, you're talking about connectivity of networking, you cannot abandon them. The Ministry of Rural, they should play a greater role. And nobody can work in silos. We should work together. It's a collective effort. Just like the African proverb says, it requires the whole village to raise a child. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mazli. Very well said, very well put, I must say. Now, a couple of things. I think one, in terms of leveraging on technology, I think earlier speakers had spoken about how we were able to leapfrog the landlines, so move straight into mobile technology, and that has saved countries who were left behind with significant savings and able to leapfrog. And I think likewise when it comes to equitable and universal access to education, so we now have great opportunity with technology to make sure that every single person, whether in rural or urban areas, will have access to equitable education. So I think this is where, within that context, for Malaysia, for example, the Jendela project, where we spoke about the need to cover at least 97% of Malaysian soil to be covered with 4G, and thereafter follow through with 5G later. And of course, we then have to develop the content, devices, and so on. Just one comment on the need to address corruption. I think the idea here is actually, as we talk about digital technology, green energy, they're not mutually exclusive. Means that whatever efforts which we have to do to improve governance, anti-corruption, that must continue without fear or favor. So again, thank you. Now, we are now at 11:30 a.m. So, alhamdulillah, we've been able to complete all the speakers within 1.5 hours allocated, right? Now, because we started 30 minutes late, we were supposed to have all the way up to 2 hours and 15 minutes. Can I get confirmation from the organizers? Do we have to end at noon, 12? 11:50. Okay, 20 minutes. So perhaps maybe in that 20 minutes verbal, can I spend 5 minutes to ask the panelists their thoughts on how do we collaborate better among the Muslim countries? So early on, we spoke about investments. So again, how do we enhance this collaboration effectively before we open up the questions from the floor? Anyone would like to answer that? Yep.
That's why I'm talking about this. This Muslim world. There is about 1.8 billion population. This is the largest single block of what I call economic organization. And look at this whole Islamic what I call countries as a whole. So I think this is a good opportunity for all these what I call Muslim populations to interconnect with each other. Because you know, Malaysia is very famous for this halal certification. So Malaysia, I think we can play a very important role for doing this certification, because this halal certification is recognized by most of the countries in the world, all the countries in the world, even these are what I call this Western Asia country. They pay a lot this emphasis to our halal certification. So from this halal certification, then we can sort of can unite the whole Muslim in terms of food, because you know, Muslim, they are very particular about their food items must be halal. This is very important. That's why from here Malaysia can play a very important role by certifying all these what I call halal food, and Malaysia can become what I call regional hub for this halal food center. Then can sort of from here we can connect with the whole world to this halal certification. So I think this is one way to do the what I call the interconnectivity. Another way, because of now we are in the digital economy, so we have to make use of digital technologies, try to connect with the rest of the world. That's why ASEAN, just I mentioned, in 2025, they're supposed to be connected with each other. That's why I call the ASEAN Connectivity 2025. I think the whole Muslim world should have this target to how to connect the whole Islamic countries in certain year, maybe in 2030 or something like that. So there's a target, then every country can work towards the target. Just we mentioned that there's what I call China, they call this what I call the carbon neutrality at 2060. Malaysia got the zero carbon emission at 2050. There must be a plan so that all the Muslim countries can work towards the target. Then now countries are trying to how to improve their infrastructure, because digital thing you need the infrastructure. So this is very important. So okay, enough.
Thank you, Prof. Chin. Asif.
Yes, I think since you know, I'm from private sector, I see a lot of G2G. The OIC is there, some regional collaboration is there, but unfortunately I don't see many B2B collaboration between the Muslim countries through the chambers and associations. I would strongly encourage that from this forum we take an initiative to do that. There are plenty of opportunities of investment and financing in infrastructure, as I mentioned, but these developing Muslim countries are dependent on international donor agencies like World Bank, IMF. Why don't we come out of that and let the developed Muslim countries do the financing, and these are lucrative investment returns. So let's look at those two areas of collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Asif. Monim, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. So, I mean, I think Brother Asif just mentioned also, you know, G2G, government to government. There's also, you know, for the infrastructure cost of it, the private and public partnerships, the PPPs. But I wanted to highlight one particular one, which I think we don't, and we're talking about Islamic finance, we don't want to dismiss, and that is the charitable sector, by the use of sadaqah or zakat or something like that. As you know, billions of dollars are moving across countries, Islamic countries, when it comes to people paying their zakat or their sadaqah. So if you think about it from a perspective of, you know, Islamic schools or masajid, when it comes to moving money from one to another, what if we had an idea of saying, the next masjid that a charitable organization builds is going to be a greener masjid, or an Islamic school that they're going to build for the rural community is going to be a greener building for them to be able to operate out of, right? Or even the food that's being produced by the charitable organizations, doing it in a sustainably well farming community. Those are the types of things we need to be also thinking about when we talk about a greener technologies development and cross-border, because it's a very, very significant portion of our heritage, and we need to continue doing it.
Thank you, Monem. One from this side.
Regardless, Muslim or non-Muslim, are all affected by the impacts of the changing earth. So we must collaborate, government, private sectors. So I would suggest this following. There must be a collaboration between government and private sector to create a multidimensional and sustainable energy transition roadmap. There must be framework on mitigation of financial risk and physical impacts of transition. Governments and private sector must prepare a roadmap to a credible energy transition and nature-based positive energy transition. Challenges, technologies, major policy programs, and framework for each country. We must have a stronger momentum towards low-carbon energy transition, but also planning and motivation. We must also manage consumer and shareholders' interests. We need to define best policy scenario for the transition pathway towards adoption of high shares of renewable energy in the power, heat, transport, and desalination sector all over the world.
Thank you, Dr. Ruth. Tan Sri Aziz, 1 minute,
Thank you
please.
very much. I think in terms of collaboration, one of the areas that I do agree with is, of course, in terms of financing, project financing for projects in areas where we need to develop projects for renewable energy in terms of developing our green economy. In Sarawak, for example, as been mentioned by Sarawak Energy, we have potentials up to 20,000 megawatt of power, while we have just now developed up to 5,000 or 3,500 in terms of hydropower. So this infrastructure in dams, for example, will need a lot of financing. And so are other renewable energy projects, development of algae project mentioned by our Premier, that will need a substantial amount of funds to develop, to grow the algae and convert into algae oil, and later on refine it into SAF to enable it to be used by airlines to fly using green fuel. So we would like to welcome all those funds, especially from the Middle East, to come to Sarawak in order to enable us to develop all these potentials and increase our green energy production and be able to use it to produce not only hydrogen, but also another renewable energy product like green methanol, green ammonia, green urea, for example, that can be used. All these are potential that are there, that is available now. And we would like, of course, in order to develop these projects, we need funds, a lot of it. And we would welcome funds from, for example, the Middle East, for example, which have not been actually giving funds to Malaysia at this moment. So thank you very much. And if I think that it's possible, we can discuss about these issues outside this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri. JFC.
Yeah, just a quick one from the energy perspective. We spoke about interconnections, and I think interconnection is a good way forward for us to be able to help not just Muslim countries, but of course Indonesia and Brunei are Muslim countries. And if we do have this ASEAN grid, if we do realize this ASEAN grid, we can actually share our renewable energy resources amongst the ASEAN countries, and at the end of the day, ultimately be able to reduce the carbon emissions throughout ASEAN. So I think that is one way where we can help each other through the interconnection. Thank you.
Thank you. Not to forget that also next door state Sabah, if I may.
Can I just have a short one?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So I think it has been mentioned a few times today. I'm talking from technology perspective. Yeah, the AI is very promising. But one thing about AI, it needs quality data. especially on serious stuff. So based on my PhD research on the AI usage in Sharia ruling, what is lacking is quality data and centralized knowledge base. So this is where an area of collaboration where we can, collate data, we can come up with a centralized knowledge base that can be used for AI to execute. AI is power as a technology, but without the quality of data and knowledge base, you cannot rely on AI output.
Thank you, Osman. Now, I would like to open the Q&A session to the floor. I have Dr. Ghazali there, please. If I may, please make your question short. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished panel. I am Dr. Muhammad Ghazali, currently the Secretary General of the World Zakat and Wakaf Forum. I was in the Islamic Development Bank as the first Director of Strategic Planning. My question is more strategic. The question is that we have not realized that we are going for a transformation of economic model of the world. All the countries in this room, all the countries in the third world were imports of the first world economy. Now we are going to the fourth economy with the professor from Malaysia, now in Thailand. So the migration and the transformation really needs what we call it the architecture and the superstructure of the whole ecosystem. What we are doing here is a bit and parcel of the whole system. Therefore, we cannot move the third world nations, neither the third world people, to the first world location. I have not heard this. Therefore, we are going in circles again. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to take that? Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor, for this question. Actually, you're talking about the normal industrialization. It will take very long years, very long times. That's why you see Japan, these Taiwanese and these Korean, they're gone through a wrong way. But now there's a digital technology that can cut short so many stages. Normally, at first, we have to go by what? Imitation. That means you copy from people design. Then second thing, you go for improvement. Then third thing, you go for innovation. The fourth thing, you go for invention. This is a wrong process of production process. But now with digital technology, you can leapfrog your development, you see. So many technology we can just buy from people. Like China, they're so advanced in the digital technologies like AI, robotic, all these things. We just buy from them. Then we just put into our system, then we can increase our productivity already. From this way, I think even the third world countries can become a first world country. Just like China, you look at 40 years ago, China, their GDP is so low, no? But nowadays, they're number 2. I predict in 2035, they're going to be world number 1 economically, They never conquer any country and colonize any country to become world number 1. Look at all the Western countries, they need to conquer other people and steal people resources and rob other people resources, then become number 1. You look at the Dutch, you look at the British Empire, you look at this US Empire, they are robbers. So or not? But China never steal any single cent on any resources for other countries.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Chin, for that. Thank you. The gentleman in front here, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I want to be more pragmatic of the strategic question. You're actually from Bursa, Malaysia, and I see a topic missing in the panel, which is related to most of you guys, is about the carbon exchange from Bursa, Malaysia. Does this provide an opportunity for future growth? Does this provide an opportunity for interconnectivity between the countries? How does this work? Thank you, Tan Sri.
Well, thank you for that question. Well, perhaps maybe just for context, I mentioned earlier about the 500 billion ringgit required for Malaysia to invest over the next 27 years or so, and 57% of that will be commercially viable on its own. Then there'll be another 37% that will be viable with some form of carbon pricing of between 1 ringgit until 300 ringgit per ton of carbon, right? And beyond that, there's another 6% will never be viable, and therefore will require government funding, grants, and so on. So for that 37%, that's close to 200 billion ringgit of investments required. This is where the carbon pricing will come in. Now, carbon pricing will come in into two forms. One is what we call the compliance market. The other one is the voluntary market. Now, it is in the voluntary market space that Bursa Malaysia operates. Now, 2 years ago, the government of Malaysia mandated Bursa Malaysia to develop the voluntary carbon market. And Alhamdulillah, we were able to actually launch it in December. We had our first 2 products being traded in March this year. But we started with the 2 overseas projects. We are hopeful that there'll be some nation projects that will be available to be traded next year. Now, so this Bursa Carbon Exchange is actually open platform for any project. So again, not just in Malaysia, but all the Muslim and non-Muslim countries too. And of course, investors also come from international too. So again, we'd like to encourage investors and corporates to utilize the Bursa Carbon Exchange that we launched. And it is actually the first Sharia-compliant carbon exchange in the world. So Alhamdulillah, so we'd like to encourage all the Muslim countries to support this, if I may. Thank you for that question. Yeah. One more question from the floor. Oh, yes, please. Go to the mic, please. Thank you. This one.
Thank you so much for this beautiful opportunity for us. I'm coming from South Korea, Seoul. We have a halal restaurant chain in South Korea. We are the biggest halal restaurant in Seoul, Korea. And also, Seoul, Korea is very active for halal also tourism. And medical tourism also very active in South Korea. One small request and suggestion to you. First time I came this beautiful city, Kuching. Jakim is very active also in Pacific countries like Japan and South Korea. Jakim is, the popular, the most famous accreditation association company. For the next event, I mean Muslim, Global World Muslim Business Forum, if you invite also non-Muslim countries people like South Korea, maybe Japan also, very active community we have in those countries, that will be more, I think, meaningful to engage the Muslim brothers and sisters in Malaysia and also other countries. Korea also, we have a small society, Muslim society, but Muslim business groups are very strong from each countries. We have around 300,000 Muslim business people in South Korea. I am just only one today, just came here as a invited person. So for the future events, I'm strongly request to you invite our people to your beautiful event. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that suggestion. I'm sure the organizers heard that. And I think indeed it's not only open to Muslim countries, open to others, but I guess we have to promote that further, if I may. Now, thank you so much for the questions. There are 2 panelists who have not had a second bite at the cherry. So if I may invite Ashraf, and after that, Dr. Mazli, to share your concluding remarks before we wrap up this session. Ashraf?
Yes, thank you. From every tragedy emerges opportunity. Over the last 45 days, there was aggression in Gaza, and this resulted actually in boycotting of many Western products and service providers. Now, this is a great opportunity that Muslim world shouldn't let go. I mean, we have been importing lots of products and services from the Western world, and that's a great opportunity for national products to emerge and actually get a bigger chunk of the market. We have seen this happen in the past 20 days, that local brands starting taking over international brands in everything, from coffee, from everything, beverages, food, a lot of things. So the idea is not to let go. Keep the momentum, keep growing. Actually, in the B2B area, in cooperation, we have started an initiative of establishing a B2B, not marketplace, but a place to introduce buyers and suppliers from all over the world to each other, where they're providing halal services, products and services. But again, this needs to grow. We need to flip the world from we as a Muslim world, a majority importer to a majority exporter. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ashraf. Dr. Bazli.
Thank you, Tansri. Just like I mentioned earlier, education is very important in shaping the future. In order to get us connected, yes, business people, they are connecting with each other, and a lot of suggestion, a lot of proposals being thrown, but what I want is people to get exposed that they are not living alone in this planet. I mean, just like I mentioned earlier, the aim of education is to produce global citizens in which students should be taught of culture, literatures, and arts of different nations, of different communities and different societies. So I still remember when we were in CIMIO, Southeast Asian Minister of Education Organization, we did agree on the idea of introducing ASEAN literature to all schools in ASEAN countries, so that all students, all children in ASEAN schools would know that they are not living alone as Malaysians or Singaporeans or Indonesians, but they have their neighbors, they have their small region as their one regional family. As well as Muslims, as well as, I mean, people of the world, we should get exposed since preschooling towards the end about people who are living with us in this planet. So a small effort in 2018 that we have launched, I'm not sure whether it's still around in the schools or in the universities, we encourage most of our schools and most of our colleges and tertiary educations to have UNESCO club. UNESCO is not really a good, an excellent example, but as a kick starter for it, to expose the student on diversity, to expose the student on culture, to expose the students on SDG, ESG, and all those kind of stuff as an eye-opener. Because I believe at the end of the day, business entity, business community is one part, but at the end of the day, is the people who will be our major stakeholders and our major source. Okay, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Mazli. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for the past 2 hours, you've heard from the 9 speakers various viewpoints on the challenges and opportunities of the digital technology and green energy and green economy. But it is not my intention to summarize it because we are at time added on, if I may. But perhaps let me conclude with 3 particular points. I think firstly, when it comes to digital technology, it enables us to leapfrog from where we were, and we don't have to go through that sequential progression. And in this case, it will provide us with that level playing field, especially when it comes to education and advancement of the economy. So I think that's something which should take advantage of. I think secondly, when it comes to green economy and green energy, most countries have got very clear pathway towards achieving net zero. And for that, will require significant investments. And many of these investments will provide actually reasonable returns, good returns to the investors. So I think this is where many of these opportunities do exist in Muslim countries, and that's something which we can take advantage of. And my third point would be more of a request from those countries with funds. As you invest in all these countries, please be equitable in terms of your expectation on returns. I think it's not fair that you will tolerate a 10% return on equity for your projects in Europe and US, but when you come to Malaysia, Bangladesh, Thailand, Philippines, and others, you expect a 20% minimum return on equity on the basis that, and that's not fair, right? So these are something which I hope the capital providers will take into account and equitable. So not just risk-based returns and risk-based pricing, but also purpose-based pricing and returns, if I may. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention. Can we give our 9 panelists here a big hand, please? Thank you.